Of all the states where polling has been held in this round, make no mistake, Telangana is the most unpredictable. At this moment, senior leaders in both parties don't know for sure who is winning and why. They have a sense about which way the winds are blowing, which party has the momentum, but they can't quite be sure about the exact and ultimate result. So what's been happening on the ground over the last few days? What's the data telling us, and what to expect when polling happens? To talk about that, I'm joined on this broadcast by some very sharp political minds who understand the nuances of Telangana politics. Let me introduce first T.S. Sudhir, who's based out of Hyderabad, has been helping us with our coverage of the Telangana elections. My colleague and India's foremost political commentator, Rajdeep Sardesai. We've got with us on this broadcast Dr. Sandeep Shastri, National Coordinator at Lokniti Network. Remember, this is the only show where data does the talking. We try and keep rhetoric as low as possible, focus on the data, because ultimately a lot of insights are contained in the data. For political perspective, I have with me on this broadcast Rohan Gupta, National Spokesperson of the Congress, and Khalikur Rahman, Senior Leader of the BRS. I want to walk across to the election intelligence dashboard and give you first a sense of the starting lineup and how Telangana is placed before the first vote has been polled. So remember, this is a state which in the last elections, the BRS of K. Chandrasekhar Rao swept. I'll take you through the current assembly in terms of what it looked like on the day of counting. Remember, a lot of the MLAs, especially from the Congress, later joined the BRS-TRS, but on the day counting happened, the BRS had 88 seats in the Telangana Assembly, the Congress 19, the BJP only 1, and there were 11 others. As far as the vote share heat map is concerned, as far as votes are concerned, the BRS had a whopping 47% of the votes. So nearly half the people who voted in the last election in Telangana voted for the Bharatiya Rashtra Samiti. The Congress had 28% of the vote, the BJP 7%, others had 18%. Now remember, a lot of the narrative in the build-up to polling day has been that the BRS has 2 terms of anti-incumbency and their graph seems to be coming down, and the Congress has some momentum and their graph is going up. But remember, the BRS, as I just showed you, starts from 88. The Congress starts from 19. So the BRS is starting from here. The Congress is starting from a very low position. So will these graphs intersect? That's the critical question in Telangana. And it's not going to be easy. And I'll take a moment to explain to you why that's the case. I've created what is called the strength scanner of different parties in Telangana. And if you look at this, the BRS has 45 seats which they consider relatively safe. Now, these are seats which have been won by the same party in both the last elections. The BRS has 8 safe seats, it has 19 very weak seats and 47 weak seats. Now, if I come to the Congress and compare this with the Congress's numbers, the Congress has 51 weak seats, seats that they've never won in the last 2 elections. They have 48 weak seats, which they won only once. They have only 3 seats, which can be considered Congress strongholds, and 17 relatively safe seats. Now, if I start looking at votes and then giving you a sense of how the votes are placed, that will give you a very good sense of how Telangana has been voting in the past elections, and why in this particular election it's not going to be easy for the Congress to win, because the remember, out of the 119 seats, 80 are considered swing, out of the 119 seats, 100 are considered swing seats. These are seats which change hands from one election to the other. The BRS in the last elections won 80 of those swing seats. The Congress won only 16. There's one more data set that I want to show you, and this will in a very simple fashion explain to you why the challenge for the Congress is so huge. Now here it is on your screen, and spend a moment studying and processing the data on your screen. Out of these 119 seats, there are 93 seats that the BRS had more than 40% votes on. 93 seats where they had 40% plus vote. The Congress had 30% plus vote on only 72 seats. Remember, to win you need 60. There are 119 total seats. The Congress had 30% plus on only 72. The BRS had 40% plus on 93 of those seats. And if I add seats where the BRS had between 30 and 40, that's 110. So out of 119, the BRS had 30% more on 110 and 40% plus on 93. The Congress had 30% plus on only 72. On the others, they're less than 30, which means they are hardly in contention and therefore very difficult for them to win. If you look at the margin scanner, now this is very interesting because unlike, say, a Madhya Pradesh where a lot of the fights were very close, in Telangana, out of the 119 total seats in the assembly, there are only 10 where the margin was less than 3,000 votes. I'm not saying 500, I'm not saying 1,000, I'm saying 3,000 votes. There are only 10 such seats. The BRS won 5 of them, the Congress won 4. If I look at the seats which were won by big margins relative to assembly standards, there were 70 seats where the margin was more than 20,000. The BRS won 60 of those, the Congress only 3. So the point I'm making is BRS has been winning big. The Congress has barely been winning. Only 3 seats with a margin of more than 20,000 votes. The others have been hard-fought elections, hard-fought victories. So therefore, can the Congress do what Afghanistan was trying to do in the World Cup, which is to beat Australia? Or will Australia just do an Australia like they did in that match against Afghanistan? That really is the question. If the Congress was somehow to be able to win in Telangana, that would be quite akin to Afghanistan beating Australia in the World Cups. And who understands cricket more than Rajdeep Sardesai? Rajdeep, in the end, Afghanistan seemed like the election was set for them to win. In the end, that didn't happen. Australia found the wherewithal in the end to go across the finishing line. Is that what Telangana is looking like to you, or can the Congress do in Afghanistan?
Well, Rahul, since you've used the Afghanistan analogy, don't forget, Afghanistan did defeat the last time previous world champions England. Afghanistan did defeat their bigger neighbors Pakistan. So Afghanistan did have some major victories. I keep using the dialogue from Dawn for KCR. KCR ko harana mushkil hai, namumkin nahi. As you've rightly pointed out, when you look at the numbers, the maths is with the BRS, with KCR, just because of A, the number of safe seats, if you look at that, or the fact of the Hyderabad rural divide. In Hyderabad, for example, of the 25 seats, between KCR and OAC, they start with an advantage of about 18 to 20 seats. So out of 119, you are looking then at about 99 seats, out of which I only need to win less than half, around 40 to get a majority. The Congress, on the other hand, knowing its limitations in Hyderabad, needs to sweep the rest of rural Telangana. Not easy, given the fact that, as you said, there are several safe seats or so-called safe seats of the BRS. So purely in terms of arithmetic, you would say KCR has the edge. But Rahul, politics is as much about chemistry as it is about arithmetic. And once you travel in Telangana, you do recognize that there is anti-incumbency against the BRS. There is some kind of a 10-year anti-incumbency each against several MLAs. KCR may well have made the mistake of not dropping several of his MLAs. And all of that leads you to believe that that mood for change, is it big enough to take the Congress to 60 and above? I think that's the real question. There is momentum with the Congress. KCR has the maths and the emotional appeal of him being the tallest leader of Telangana on his side. Is the momentum that the Congress has enough to take you to 60? You see, you've got, to use again finally the Afghanistan analogy, Afghanistan had a few good players in the top order, but they didn't have enough of a depth to eventually win the title. So they could win a few matchups, like against England, like against Pakistan, but they were not good enough to sustain that momentum and win the final. Will that happen to the Congress? I think if there is a mini wave, then of course all bets are off. Otherwise, as you said, this is a fascinating contest between a strong regional party and a national party. I'll give you a quote, a classic quote given to me by a senior leader in Telangana. He said, when two national parties fight each other, it's a battle. But when a regional party takes on national parties, it's war. You see, KCR in the last few days is putting all his energies in electioneering because he knows this is do or die. He loses, his BRS could well collapse after this election. So I think given that, it's very difficult for anyone to predict confidently who's winning. But I will say this, momentum with the Congress matched to some extent still with the BRS.
You know, you're talking about a mini wave. It will need a volcanic eruption electorally if the Congress is to go from their low base and if the BRS is to fall from their pedestal of the last elections. Remember, if the situation was different and the anti-incumbency was against the BRS and it was the BJP which was seen as the preeminent challenger, the situation would have been very different. People would have been betting on a BJP victory. The reason that they aren't is because the Congress doesn't have the kind of electoral machine that the BJP has in other states, not Telangana in particularly, but in other states. And a lot of their mojo was really discovered after the win in Karnataka earlier this year. It wasn't as if they've been working hard for the last 4.5, 5 years.